Hello, welcome to the You and You podcast with me, Sanjiv Sangha. If you enjoy listening to today's podcast, I'd be really grateful if you could share it with your friends and family or hit subscribe and the like buttons. And I'll thank you now in advance for that. In each episode, I look at a word or maybe even a phrase and discuss how it's impacted my life and what I've done to try and navigate my way through that kind of phrase, that issue, and in hope to give you some top tips so you can move through it a little bit quicker or just so you know a little bit about it. Today I'm covering victim mentality. That's quite a big one. So let's break it down. Victim refers to someone or something that has been hurt, damaged or suffered due to the actions of others, illnesses or just chance. Mentality is a person's particular view of thinking about things. So victim mentality combined is a way of seeing yourself as a victim of the negative actions of others, whether that's your teachers, your friends, your family, your co-workers, and sometimes a victim of a circumstance where you may feel like you've been wronged and you focus in on that particular element. Do you always feel like it's somebody else's fault about what is happening to you? You may feel like a situation is out of your control and that you can't do something about that situation, that you have no choice in the matter and it's all happening to you. It's quite challenging when you face that. Is there a chance that you're taking something personally that isn't even directed at you? Victim mentality holds us back in our development and our progression, and it definitely has left me feeling stuck and powerless in the past. It's a negative trait and it's harmful to you and those around you. But we do have to support people who are facing this and going through this because they have to acknowledge it themselves first, because they're the only ones that can create the momentum for change that they need in their life. But it's quite painful when you realise what victim mentality is and how it's occurred. So with it, there's no silver bullet. In my personal opinion, when you're in victim mentality, you're in a place of negativity and in a position of weakness. Stuff happens all the time, and your ability to understand why something's happened in your own actions and thinking processes within that situation, it's vital. To me, victim mentality is the first thing that we need to address when we want to start moving forward in the world in a positive way. I learned about this phrase when I was 30. Yes, I'm over 30. And wow, if I'd learnt this phrase when I was a lot younger, I would have saved a lot of time going over and over things, blaming others, and the world for my problems, whether that was having a steady job during the financial crash or being in a toxic relationship with anyone. All this stuff, like, I just kept thinking about in the past, and actually you can't change the past. So when I discovered the term and I understood it, I knew I didn't want it to be part of my life, and I didn't really want to hold that. I was a fun-loving girl when I was a lot younger, and I'd lost someone I'd loved, and then it started about 6 years earlier. So whilst there was another turning point in my life when I'd been hurt by somebody, and I did seek help around that time for that, but little was offered. And I was told in that instance I was okay, that the way I felt was normal. So I was 24, and I used to think I was the luckiest girl alive. I was landed on my feet finally. I'd been studying for 6 years, and I was quite disengaged when I was at university in the subject, but oh my gosh, when I went to work, I was so in the flow. I was learning so much. I was challenged by it. It was invigorating. And when I'm in the flow like that, it's really cool, and I really enjoy it. There's nothing better. And it felt like everything was finally falling into place. All that work at uni and getting there and getting through it. And then something happened. I was assaulted by someone I knew, not a relation, and it broke my trust in people. And then there were other events that happened quite quickly after that, like my only grandparent passed away, my dad passed away, I was bullied quite heavily at work, I failed my architectural exams a couple of times. I was constantly changing job and moving, and probably some other bits and pieces as well. I eventually then did pass my exam, and then I fell in love with someone, but the relationship became very, very toxic quite quickly. So when I turned 30, I ended the relationship, and then I had to start again, and it felt like I was starting from scratch and also from quite a broken place. I didn't know many people in London because I'd been so absorbed in trying to pass my exams or changing jobs. And then my ex's circle, who were really great, we used to have a lot of fun together, some of my really good friends. But then I needed to have a clean break when we broke up. That kind of love was a bit out of control for both of us. And it was scarring, really scarring. It took me a long time to recover. So I'd gotten into the habit of moaning quite a lot, which wasn't great. Saying the same thing over and over again, and everything was a problem rather than a solution or an opportunity. I definitely had a moment after the relationship ended where everything just felt like it was crashing down. I couldn't understand why everything was awful and just so out of control. And then I finally had a moment. I was back in my childhood bedroom and I rang my sister and I was in tears. And that was a lot for someone like me to do because I suppress everything and bottle it all up. And it was a really bizarre feeling. And my sister happened to be with some of her friends and they recommended a book called Feel the Fear by Susan Jeffers. And that for me was a turning point. It was such a powerful book. I actually have no idea how many times I read it. It was always in my bag when I was traveling around on the tube. So I would dip into it before I started work or at lunchtime and just have a little read to just bring me back to myself. And it would pick me up a little bit. That book now is in my memory box because it's absolutely battered. It doesn't have a front cover. It's probably missing a few other pages. And I bought it for so many people and my friends and family. It was definitely a catalyst for change for me because it was quite simple and straightforward. And I probably should have read a few more books after that, but you know, it's all right. I would say I've had a rough 20 years or so. And while I've had highlights, I've definitely had some low points. Some of it is about things that have happened to me through external conditions that I can't control. And some of it is about my reaction and how I perceive things. I wouldn't change my past choices and I wouldn't exchange my life for anyone else's. And I've never had that envy of like, why are they doing better than me? I'm very grateful that I didn't step into that. We also have to remember that the grass always looks greener on the other side. We don't have a clue of what's going on in people's lives and what they're facing and working through. And sometimes, yes, I have been a bit upset with my choices, but it is the way it is. I don't think it's a bad thing to feel like this because maybe it's a catalyst for change that will propel you forward to create what you want to see. So this book was the first thing that ever taught me about what victim mentality was and the whole moan and groan society, as she put it. And I definitely fitted into one of those. So when you're constantly moaning about the same thing or a similar story or situation over and over again, do you get bored of hearing yourself say it? I bet you if you listen, you'll be like, oh, whoops. Do you want to stop hearing yourself say it, the same story? Well, you can. It takes practice and an awareness about it to break that habit. But when you wake up from that slumber of negativity and start looking for the joy in the moment and what you're experiencing, you can't change the past, no matter how much you talk about it or ruminate it over it and think about it. So what is the change that you need? Do you need to get a new job? There was a moment where I was made redundant from a job due to Brexit, and my friends wanted to throw a party. I was like, what? They were like, oh wow, this is amazing, finally, you're out of there. And I was like, was it that bad? They were like, you were miserable. And I was so surprised by that. So I must have been complaining about it. I thought I'd been giving myself stability for staying there for 2 years, but I had definitely been uninspired by the work and the working conditions. So yeah, I'd complained. What are you always complaining about? Is it because you don't get on with your boss and you don't like the work, for example? Well, is there another opportunity at your workplace that does attract you? Can you do something to reframe your thought process around the situation? If it's a subject that you're studying, why not look towards the end goal or the little bits that you like learning and see it as a stepping stone to where you want to be? What is it that you really don't like at work? Do you need to retrain? Have you got a passion that you love? I have a friend who was working as a PA where I worked, and she was amazing. She was brilliant. And we got to chatting one day, and I learned that she was building websites on the side as a side hustle, and she was earning almost the same as what she was earning at work, if not more. And she was very passionate about it. She was just glowing when she was talking about it. It was very creative. And then, so when we went out for a drink, I said, this is what you need to be doing, because she was just glowing and she was so inspired by it. Take the leap, believe in yourself. You only have one life, and it's never, ever a good point to start. And it's always hard taking that first step. A few years later, she said it was that conversation that got her to take a leap of faith. That little bit of belief that I had in her and showing her her own potential gave her that inspiration to move forward. I wish I could have listened to my own advice sometimes. Anyway, she went on to leave and have a successful business. She sometimes temps for creative offices so that she has a little bit of contact with people. And I know many people who have done this in the past, where they have a job that they're working part-time that's not too taxing, so they can exert their passion and their creativity into their own projects. She took a leap of faith in her own ability rather than settling for a toxic workplace in a role that didn't satisfy her. When you start looking at victim mentality and reading about it, the language that you use with yourself and others will start jumping out at yourself. It is about your inner thought process, the one that creates the doubt and negativity. It is only when you become aware of it that that part of yourself that finds excuses. Do you say, oh, they won't agree to that because of so-and-so. I can't do that because this will happen. Or if I do this, then this is going to happen. Well, it's just excuses. Are you giving away your own power to others in a dialogue with yourself? Are you living in fear? The key here is the ability to take a step back from a situation, reflect on it. And if you're blaming others or external circumstances for your situation, what's going on? Once you look at it, you'll probably see that some of the blame does lie with you, if not all of it. Whoops. Yeah. Now, when you get to this point and you've gotten over the shock of learning that about yourself, and that a bit of it is your fault, in part or all of it, then you have to be really cautious that you don't step into the layer of being a victim of your victim mentality. Appreciate that you've always done your best, because most people do their best. Forgive yourself if you feel like this, and let it go. That's it, just let it go. Start stepping into empowering yourself and making the right choices for yourself. Shut down the negative mindset and let go of what no longer serves you. This all takes practice, but teaching this to yourself is like gold. Over a decade later, I still have moments where I've stepped into victim mentality. I'm okay with it, as I'm always trying to do my best in sometimes very exceptional circumstances. I'm my own worst critic and I overanalyze everything. And I have to be very mindful of this and when I'm doing it. You have full control of yourself and your choices and how you wish to see things. It can be hard and painful to recognize this part of yourself, but once you do, it will give you a freedom that will be profound, and a weight will be lifted from your shoulders. There will be things that happen that will sometimes be out of your control, but how you react to them is up to you. And the help that you might try and obtain from others to help you with that situation is also up to you. You have a choice, and the choice can be between having control about how you appear in this world, and you also have a choice to take responsibility for your actions and thoughts. Trust me, it's empowering. Don't beat yourself up. If you realise that you've caused yourself the pain, feel it and let it go, as I've said before. Look at how you are speaking to yourself throughout the day. And when you're slipping into those negative moments, are you using deflating language around yourself, and about your decision making? Are you blaming others for what is happening in your world? Sometimes there are things that are out of your control, as I've mentioned. And I've talked at length previously about the circle of control. It's an accessible model which you can use for reflection, and it is one of many that's available. Stuff happens all the time. That's life. It's part of the garden we plant. Some of it will grow and flourish into beautiful flowers and plants, and then there will be weeds, but those have many benefits to the environment too. We are in a constant cycle of learning and evolving, and how we felt yesterday isn't how we have to be today. It's okay to change your mindset about something. It shows great insight, personal development, and growth. I've had some of my most greatest and fulfilling moments when I've been wrong about something. And I think it's because it's shown me that I can grow, and it's shown me that I've learned something. And understanding and overcoming victim mentality has been one of the most profound changes in my life. It has allowed me to take back my power, to see challenges as opportunities, and to create the life that I love. And whilst I still have moments where I slip back into my old patterns, I now have the tools to pull myself forward and keep moving forward. And be gentle with yourself when you do. I'll leave you with this. You have control over your life, your choices, and how you see the world. It may be hard to recognize this part of yourself, but once you do, the freedom you will gain is amazing. Life will continue to throw challenges your way. It's part of the ride, but how you respond to it is up to you. You have the power to choose. Take responsibility and create the life that you want. Thank you for joining me on the You and You podcast. If you found today's discussion helpful, please share it with someone who might benefit from it. Remember, you have the power to shape your own life one choice at a time. If you enjoyed this episode and want to support it, please hit subscribe. And stay tuned for next week's episode. I'd love to do some Q&A, so feel free to DM me on Instagram at Sanjiv Sangha. Thank you. Bye.